Jack Wilson's life was turned upside down when his 7-year-old son, Ethan, came home with a note from school saying the Little League baseball team desperately needed a coach, and he had volunteered his dad for the job. Standing in their modest kitchen, the 34-year-old construction worker stared at the crumpled paper in disbelief, his calloused hands trembling slightly. "You did what?" he asked, trying to keep his voice level. Ethan looked up with pleading brown eyes, a mirror of Jack's own. "Coach Mike quit, Dad. They're gonna cancel the whole season if no one steps up. You played baseball in college, remember? You'd be perfect." Jack ran a hand through his dark hair, glancing around their small apartment. Between working overtime at the construction site and taking care of Ethan since his ex-wife moved across the country 3 years ago, he barely had time to breathe, let alone coach a team of energetic second graders. But the hope in his son's eyes made it impossible to say no. "When's the first practice?" he sighed, already mentally rearranging his work schedule. Ethan's face lit up. "Tomorrow, you're the best, Dad." He threw his arms around Jack's waist, and Jack couldn't help but smile. For moments like these, he'd move mountains. The next afternoon, Jack arrived at Maple Ridge Elementary School's baseball field 15 minutes early, clipboard in hand, wearing his faded college baseball cap and an old t-shirt. He'd stayed up late researching drills appropriate for 7-year-olds and planning a practice schedule. As he set up equipment, a sleek black Range Rover pulled into the parking lot. A small boy with sandy blonde hair jumped out, clutching a brand-new baseball glove and bat that probably cost more than Jack's weekly paycheck. Behind him emerged a woman who made Jack momentarily forget how to breathe. She was tall and elegant, with honey blonde hair swept into a casual ponytail. She wore simple jeans and a light blue blouse, but something about her screamed sophistication. When she slipped off her sunglasses, Jack caught a glimpse of striking green eyes that crinkled at the corners as she smiled down at her son. "Mom, hurry up. I don't want to be late," the boy urged, practically dragging her toward the field. "I'm coming, Max," she laughed, a sound that somehow carried across the field to where Jack stood. Max spotted Ethan and raced over to him, leaving his mother to approach Jack alone. She extended her hand, and Jack became acutely aware of his work-roughened palms. "Hi, I'm Katherine Lambert." "Max's mom, you must be the new coach, Jack Wilson," he replied, briefly taking her soft hand. "Ethan's dad, just drafted into service yesterday, so bear with me." "We're grateful someone stepped up," Katherine said with a warm smile. "Max has been talking about baseball nonstop for weeks." There was something about her that Jack couldn't quite place. She was undeniably beautiful, but it was more than that. She had a presence, a quiet confidence that intrigued him. Before he could respond, more families arrived, and Jack threw himself into organizing the practice. To his surprise, Katherine stayed instead of dropping Max off like most parents. She sat on the bleachers, occasionally taking calls on her phone, but mostly watching the practice with genuine interest. Jack discovered he had a natural knack for coaching. He kept the drills fun but focused, breaking down complex movements into manageable steps for the kids. When little Max Lambert struggled with his batting stance, Jack crouched beside him, patiently adjusting his grip and showing him how to shift his weight. "There you go, buddy." "Just like that," Jack encouraged as Max finally connected with the ball, sending it rolling across the infield. "I did it," Max exclaimed, his face lighting up with pride. From the corner of his eye, Jack caught Katherine watching them, a soft expression on her face. When their eyes met briefly, she gave him a grateful smile that made his heart skip a beat. After practice, as Jack was packing up equipment, Katherine approached with Max. "Coach Jack, you were amazing," she said. "Max hasn't stopped talking about your batting tips." Jack rubbed the back of his neck, embarrassed by the praise. "Just basics I remember from playing. The kids did all the work. Nevertheless, we appreciate it." She hesitated, then added, "Max and I were going to grab some ice cream. Would you and Ethan like to join us?" As a thank you for stepping up. Jack was about to decline. He needed to get home and prepare dinner, review Ethan's homework, and tackle the mountain of laundry waiting for him, but Ethan overheard and was already bouncing with excitement. "Can we, Dad, please?" Looking between his son's hopeful face and Katherine's inviting smile, Jack found himself nodding. Sure, why not? We could use a treat. At the ice cream parlor, the boys quickly bonded over their shared love of chocolate sprinkles and superhero movies, leaving Jack and Katherine to talk. So, what do you do when you're not being drafted as a baseball coach? Katherine asked, taking a small bite of her vanilla cone. Construction management, Jack replied. I work for Summit Builders. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills and I'm good at it. That's important work, she said with genuine interest, building things that last. What about you? Katherine paused, stirring her ice cream thoughtfully. I work in finance, investment management primarily. Sounds complicated, Jack remarked. It can be, she admitted. But I enjoy the challenge. I've been doing it since business school. There was something in her tone, a slight hesitation that made Jack wonder if there was more to the story, but he didn't press. Instead, the conversation drifted to their children, and Jack found himself sharing how he'd been raising Ethan alone since his ex-wife relocated for a job opportunity. It's not always easy, he confessed, but we make it work. Ethan's a great kid. He is, Katherine agreed, watching the boys laugh together. And you're clearly doing an amazing job with him. Her words warmed something in Jack that had been cold for a long time. Over the next few weeks, baseball practice became the highlight of Jack's week. He threw himself into coaching, developing practice plans and studying techniques to help each player improve. The kids responded enthusiastically, especially Max, who seemed desperate for male attention. During one practice, Katherine arrived late, dressed in a tailored suit and looking slightly harried. She apologized profusely to Max, who barely acknowledged her, too caught up in a fielding drill. Work emergency? Jack asked when she settled on the bleachers. Something like that, she said with a sigh. Some days I feel like I'm failing at everything, work, motherhood, all of it. Hey, you made it, that's what counts, Jack assured her. Besides, Max is having a blast, look at him. Together they watched as Max successfully caught a pop fly, his face lighting up as the other kids cheered for him. Thank you, Katherine said softly, for being so good with him. His father isn't in the picture much, business in Europe. She said it matter-of-factly, but Jack caught the hint of old pain in her voice. Their loss, Jack replied simply. Max is a great kid. Katherine studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. You're not what I expected, Jack Wilson. Before he could ask what she meant, she was called away by another parent about the upcoming team fundraiser. The fundraiser became their next challenge. The team needed new equipment and funds for tournament fees. Jack proposed a car wash and bake sale, but when he mentioned it to Katherine after practice, she seemed hesitant. What if we aim higher? She suggested. I might be able to help secure a venue for a proper event, maybe an auction or dinner, Jack frowned. These are working families, Katherine. I don't want to price anyone out of participating. Of course not, she said quickly. I just thought, well, I have some connections that might help us raise more with less effort from the parents. Jack was about to argue further when his phone rang, Ethan's after-school program calling to say his son had a fever. He apologized and rushed off, the fundraiser discussion temporarily forgotten. The next day, Katherine texted him about Ethan's condition. Jack was surprised she'd remembered, and even more surprised at how much her concern meant to him. They began texting regularly, first about team matters but gradually about their days, sharing small victories and frustrations. When Ethan recovered, Katherine invited them to Sunday brunch at what she described as a little cafe I like. Jack was surprised to find it was an exclusive restaurant overlooking the harbor, where the maitre d' greeted Katherine by name and led them to a prime table. You come here often? Jack asked, eyeing the menu with no prices listed. Sometimes, she said vaguely. The owner is an old friend. Throughout the meal, Jack noticed little things, how the staff deferred to her, the quality of her watch, the casual way she handed her car to the valet. Katherine Lambert was clearly more successful than she let on, but she never made him feel less than. Instead, she listened intently as he described his latest work project, asked Ethan about his science class, and laughed genuinely at their jokes. As spring progressed, the team improved dramatically under Jack's coaching. They won their first game, then their second, building momentum toward the district tournament. After each victory, the team gathered for celebrations at the local pizza place, with Jack and Katherine often finding themselves sitting together, talking long after the kids had finished eating. "You've transformed these kids," Katherine told him one evening as they watched the boys play arcade games. "Max used to be so shy, but look at him now." "They just needed someone to believe in them," Jack replied, then added with a grin, "and maybe a few hundred grounders for practice." Katherine laughed, the sound making Jack's heart race. Over the weeks, he'd found himself increasingly drawn to her intelligence, her dedication to Max, the way she treated everyone with respect regardless of their position. But he reminded himself of the differences between them. She clearly moved in circles he couldn't access, and he had no interest in being anyone's charity case. The night before the semifinal game, disaster struck. Jack received a call from his boss there was a crisis at their biggest project, and they needed him on site at 6 a.m. for an emergency meeting that could last all day. "I can't miss this game," Jack protested. "The kids have worked so hard." "I'm sorry, Jack, but this client pays your salary," his boss replied firmly. "Be there or start looking for another job." Devastated, Jack called Katherine, who answered despite the late hour. "I'll figure something out," she promised after he explained. "Don't worry about the team." "I feel like I'm letting them down," Jack admitted, the weight of disappointment heavy in his chest. "You've given them more than enough," Katherine said softly. "One game won't change that." The next morning, Jack was deep in crisis management when his phone buzzed with a text from Katherine. "Problem solved. Focus on your work. We've got this." He couldn't respond until hours later when he finally emerged from the site office, exhausted and covered in dust. Opening his phone, he found a series of photos Katherine had sent the team in their uniforms, Ethan and Max giving thumbs up. And most surprisingly, a man in a team cap directing the kids through warm-up exercises. The final message read, "Meet Coach Sam, my company's HR director and former college baseball player. He volunteered to step in. We won. Celebration dinner at 7 Luigi's restaurant. No excuses." Relief and gratitude washed over Jack. He showered quickly at the site, changed into the spare clothes he kept in his truck, and made it to Luigi's by 7:15. The restaurant was humming with excitement, kids and parents celebrating their victory. Jack spotted Ethan immediately, animatedly describing a play to another teammate's parents. When Ethan saw him, he raced over. "Dad, we won. Coach Sam helped us, but we used all your strategies." Jack hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you, buddy, so proud." He looked up to see Katherine approaching with a tall, athletic man he assumed was Sam. "Jack, meet Sam Daniels, my company's HR director and our pinch hitter coach," she said. Sam shook Jack's hand warmly. "You've built a great team here. They knew exactly what to do, I just had to point them in the right direction." "Thanks for stepping in," Jack said sincerely. "I owe you one." Sam waved it off. "Happy to help Katherine. She's done enough for all of us over the years." Katherine shot Sam a warning look that Jack couldn't interpret, but before he could question it, the restaurant owner appeared, announcing that their private room was ready. Private room. Jack whispered to Katherine as they followed the owner. "Just a small thank you to the team," she replied. "Nothing extravagant." Jack's definition of nothing extravagant clearly differed from Katherine's. The private dining room was beautifully decorated with the team colors. A professional photographer captured team photos, and each kid received a personalized baseball cap as a gift. As the evening progressed, Jack found himself watching Katherine interact with everyone, helping younger siblings cut their food, engaging shy parents in conversation, making each person feel valued. Whatever her finance job entailed, she clearly had leadership skills that went beyond spreadsheets. After dinner, as families began to leave, Katherine pulled Jack aside. "Would you and Ethan like to come over tomorrow? Max has been begging for a playdate, and I thought maybe we could talk about the championship game strategy." "We'd like that," Jack agreed, ignoring the voice in his head warning him about getting too close. The address Katherine texted him the next morning led to an exclusive neighborhood of sprawling estates. Jack double-checked the navigation, certain there must be a mistake, but when he pulled up to the gated entrance, the security guard checked his name against a list and waved him through. The driveway wound through manicured gardens before revealing a stunning modern home of glass and stone. Jack parked his work truck next to a vintage Porsche, feeling increasingly out of place. Max burst out the front door before they could even knock. "Ethan, Coach Jack, come see my game room." The boys disappeared inside, leaving Jack standing awkwardly in the massive foyer with its soaring ceilings and contemporary art. Katherine appeared from a hallway, dressed casually in jeans and a simple sweater that somehow looked like they cost more than Jack's monthly rent. "You found us okay?" she asked, kissing his cheek in greeting a gesture that left him momentarily speechless. "Your house is," he began, unable to find an appropriate word. "Too much," she supplied with a self-deprecating smile. "I know, but it has a great yard for Max to play in." "Come on, I'll give you the tour while the boys are occupied." As they walked through the house, Jack struggled to reconcile this lifestyle with the down-to-earth woman he'd come to know. The casual mentions of "my chef" and the home theater contrasted sharply with the Katherine who sat on dusty bleachers and helped clean up equipment after practice, in her sunlit kitchen, as a private chef prepared lunch. Jack finally asked the question that had been building. "Katherine, what exactly do you do?" She paused, setting down her coffee cup carefully. "I'm the CEO of Lambert Financial Group. My father founded it, and I took over after business school. Lambert Financial, the investment firm with offices in like 20 countries." Jack asked, recognition dawning. Katherine nodded, watching his reaction closely. 26 now, actually. Jack tried to process this information. He'd heard of Lambert Financial, everyone had. It was one of the largest private investment firms in the country. "So you're not just in finance, you run one of the biggest firms in the world," he said slowly. "Why didn't you say something?" "Because people treat me differently when they know," she replied, her voice smaller than he'd ever heard it. "Either they want something from me, or they assume I'm not approachable. When I'm just Max's mom at baseball practice, I get to be normal for a while." Jack thought about their interactions over the past months, how she'd never flaunted her wealth, how she'd treated everyone on the team with equal respect, how she'd stayed for entire practices just to watch her son play. "I get that," he said finally, "but I wish you'd trusted me." "I do trust you, Jack, more than I've trusted anyone in a long time." Her eyes met his, vulnerable and honest. "That's what scares me." Before Jack could respond, the boys thundered into the kitchen, hungry and excited about their next baseball game, effectively ending the conversation. Throughout lunch, Jack struggled with conflicting emotions. Part of him felt betrayed by the omission, while another part understood her reasons. The wealth disparity between them now seemed insurmountable. What could he possibly offer someone who had everything? After lunch, while the boys played in the backyard, Katherine led Jack to her home office to discuss team matters. The space was impressive but surprisingly personal, with photos of Max at various ages covering one wall and baseball memorabilia displayed prominently. "You really love the game," Jack observed, examining a signed baseball in a display case. "My dad taught me to play," she said, her expression softening. "Some of my best memories are of us playing catch in the backyard. That's why Max's interest means so much to me." As they worked on game strategy, the professional distance Jack tried to maintain kept crumbling. Katherine was still just Katherine, intelligent, funny, kind, and as passionate about the team as he was. When it was time to leave, Katherine walked them to the door. "Jack, about earlier. I hope this doesn't change things between us. I'm still processing," he admitted honestly. "But the team needs both of us focused on the championship, so let's start there." She nodded, clearly disappointed but understanding. "One game at a time, coach." The week leading up to the championship was hectic. Jack threw himself into preparations, running extra practices and reviewing game footage. Katherine handled the logistics, organizing transportation and securing a professional photographer to document the game. They maintained a friendly but somewhat distant relationship, the easy camaraderie of before now tempered by Jack's awareness of their different worlds. The morning of the championship arrived with perfect baseball weather, sunny but not too hot, with a gentle breeze. The team was nervous but excited as they gathered for pre-game warm-ups. "Remember what we practiced," Jack told them as they huddled up. "Play your positions, support each other, and most importantly, have fun out there. I'm proud of you all, no matter what happens today." The game was intense from the first inning. Their opponents were well coached and determined, matching them run for run. By the seventh and final inning, they were tied 5-5, with 2 outs and Max at bat with Ethan on second base. Jack saw the fear in Max's eyes as he approached the plate. The boy had improved tremendously over the season but still struggled with confidence in high-pressure situations. Jack called time and jogged to the plate. "You've got this, Max," he said, crouching to meet the boy's eyes. "Remember what we practiced. Just watch the ball and swing through it." "What if I miss?" Max whispered. "Then you miss. But I believe in you and so does your mom. Look." He pointed to where Katherine stood by the dugout, her hands clasped together anxiously but her expression full of love and pride. Max took a deep breath, nodded, and stepped back into the batter's box with new determination. The first pitch came fast a strike, the second a ball. On the third pitch, Max connected perfectly, sending the ball soaring over the second baseman's head. Ethan raced around third as the outfielder scrambled for the ball. The throw came in just as Ethan slid home, kicking up a cloud of dust. "Safe," called the umpire, and their dugout erupted. Max stood on second base, beaming with disbelief and joy as his teammates swarmed the field. In the chaos of celebration, Jack found himself face to face with Katherine, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You did it," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "No," Jack corrected her. "Max did it. We just showed him he could." Without thinking, she threw her arms around him, and Jack held her close, the barriers he'd built crumbling completely. The team's celebration at a local restaurant was joyous chaos. Trophies were distributed, speeches made, and endless photos taken. Throughout it all, Jack found his gaze continually drawn to Katherine, who seemed to glow with happiness as she watched Max proudly showing his trophy to everyone. As the celebration wound down, Katherine approached Jack, who was helping Ethan gather his things. "Would you two like to come back to the house? I have something for the team, but I'd like you to see it first." Jack hesitated only briefly before accepting. The drive back to Katherine's home was filled with excited chatter from the boys, reliving every moment of the game. At the house, Katherine led them to her office, where a large package sat on her desk. "I had these made for the team," she explained, carefully unwrapping a framed photo collage of the season action shots of each player, team photos, and candid moments from practices and games. In the center was a beautiful shot of Jack crouching between Max and Ethan, all three laughing during a practice drill. "Katherine, this is incredible," Jack said, genuinely moved. "There's one for each player," she explained, "but I wanted to give you something else." She handed him a smaller package. Inside was a vintage baseball, carefully restored and mounted. The inscription read, "To Coach Jack, who taught us that winning isn't just about the score, with gratitude, the Lambert family." "I don't know what to say," Jack murmured, touched by the thoughtful gift. "The boys are playing in the game room," Katherine said softly. "Could we talk, really talk?" In her living room, with its panoramic view of the sunset, Katherine sat beside Jack on the sofa, closer than necessary. "I need to apologize," she began. "Not just for not telling you about my job, but for letting my fears get in the way. The truth is, Jack, I haven't felt this way about someone in a very long time." Jack turned to face her. "Katherine, you live in a different world. Look at this place, your company, everything you can give Max. What could I possibly offer that you don't already have?" "Everything that matters," she replied without hesitation. "Integrity, kindness, the way you put Ethan first always. How you see the potential in every kid on that team, including my son." She took his hand, her eyes sincere. "Money can buy a lot of things, Jack, but not what you've given Max these past months, not what you've given me." "And what's that?" he asked, his voice low. "A chance to be seen for who I am, not what I own, the opportunity to be part of something real." She moved closer. "I'm falling in love with you, Jack Wilson, not because you're perfect, but because you're perfectly real." Jack studied her face, searching for any hint of doubt and finding none. Slowly, he raised his hand to cup her cheek. I've been fighting this for weeks, he admitted. Telling myself it wouldn't work, that we're too different, but the truth is, I'm falling in love with you too. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question and answer all at once. When they parted, Katherine's smile was radiant. So what now, coach? She whispered. Now we take it one inning at a time, he replied with a smile. 3 months later, Jack stood in Katherine's backyard, their backyard now, as he and Ethan had moved in last month. He was supervising the installation of a professional-grade batting cage, a joint decision they'd made to help Max and Ethan practice year-round. Looking good, Katherine said, wrapping her arms around him from behind and resting her chin on his shoulder. It's extravagant, Jack commented, though without judgment. Says the man who insisted on building it himself instead of hiring contractors, she teased. Some things I need to do with my own hands, he replied, turning to kiss her. It matters more that way. Their relationship had progressed naturally, despite the external differences in their circumstances. Jack had initially refused to quit his job, insisting on maintaining his independence, but Katherine respected his decision. Eventually, they'd compromised. He'd accepted a position as project director for Lambert Financial's Community Development Initiative, overseeing the construction of affordable housing and community centers. The position allowed him to use his skills while making a difference, and it gave him the flexibility to continue coaching not just Max and Ethan's team, but also starting a league for underprivileged kids in the city. Dad, Mom says dinner's ready. Ethan called from the patio, the word Mom still new on his lips but spoken with increasing comfort. Katherine had never tried to replace Ethan's mother, but she'd created her own relationship with him, based on mutual respect and growing affection. We'll be right there, Jack called back, taking Katherine's hand. He's settling in well, he observed. So are you, she replied, squeezing his fingers. Still feeling out of place, Jack looked around at the estate that had initially intimidated him. Over time, he'd made it theirs, adding a workshop in the garage, installing the batting cage, creating spaces that reflected their blended family. Not anymore, he said honestly. Home is where you all are. That evening, as they sat around the dinner table, Jack, Katherine, Ethan, and Max Jack marveled at how naturally they'd become a family. There were still adjustments and occasional conflicts, but the foundation was solid. Later, after the boys were in bed, Jack and Katherine sat on the patio, enjoying the warm summer night. I've been thinking, Katherine said, nestling against his side, about expanding our baseball program to more schools, creating opportunities for kids who might not otherwise get to play. I like that idea, Jack agreed, his arm around her shoulders. We could establish scholarships, upgrade facilities in underserved areas, using your construction expertise and my financial resources, she added. The perfect team. Jack smiled, still amazed sometimes at how their different worlds had complemented rather than conflicted with each other. Speaking of teams, Katherine continued, suddenly sounding nervous. I've been thinking about our team too. Our family team, Jack asked. Yes, she sat up to face him. I love what we've built together, Jack. I love how you've embraced my world without letting it change who you are. I love watching you with Max and seeing Ethan flourish. She took a deep breath. I'd like to make it official. From her pocket, she pulled out a small box and opened it to reveal a simple but elegant titanium ring. I know this is traditionally the man's role, but we've never been traditional. Jack Wilson, will you marry me? Jack stared at the ring, then at the remarkable woman before him, CEO, mother, partner, and now proposer. He laughed, the sound full of joy. What's so funny? She asked, slightly concerned. Jack reached into his own pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Great minds think alike, he said, opening it to reveal a diamond ring. I was going to ask you this weekend at the lake. Katherine's eyes widened, then she burst into laughter. So, is that a yes? It's an absolutely, Jack replied, pulling her close. On one condition. What's that? We coach the team together next season. Official co-coaches. Deal, she whispered against his lips before sealing their engagement with a kiss. 6 months later, they were married in a ceremony that reflected both their worlds, elegant but unpretentious, with the baseball team serving as junior groomsmen. As they exchanged vows surrounded by family and friends, Jack reflected on how a simple little league coaching position had completely transformed his life. Their honeymoon was split between a luxury resort in Bali, Catherine's choice, and a rustic cabin in Montana for fly fishing, Jack's pick. By the time they returned, plans for their joint foundation focused on youth sports and education in underserved communities were well underway. Life settled into a new rhythm, busy mornings getting boys to school, workdays focused on their respective passions, and evenings spent together as a family. Weekend baseball games remained a constant, with Jack and Katherine now coaching teams in the expanded league they'd created. One evening, as they watched Max and Ethan practicing batting in their backyard cage, Katherine leaned against Jack's shoulder. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For seeing me. Not the CEO, not the billionaire, just me." Jack wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her closer. "That's the only person I've ever seen," he said truthfully. "The amazing woman who sat through every practice, who celebrates every small victory with her son, who gives her heart completely to the people she loves. I think I started falling for you that first day," she admitted. "When you showed Max how to hold the bat and looked at him with such patience. No one had ever taken that kind of time with him before." From the batting cage came the crack of a perfect hit, followed by cheers from both boys. Jack and Katherine clapped and whistled in encouragement. "We should go in for dinner soon," Katherine said, making no move to leave their comfortable position. "In a minute," Jack replied, savoring the moment, the warm evening, the sounds of their boys playing, the feeling of his wife in his arms. "I'm exactly where I want to be." As the sun set over their home, casting golden light across the yard, Jack reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought them here. From a reluctant little league coach to the husband of Katherine Lambert, from a struggling single dad to part of a blended family that worked in ways he'd never imagined possible. It wasn't the money or the lifestyle that had changed his life, it was love, pure and simple. The kind of love that sees beyond circumstances to the heart beneath. The kind that builds something lasting, one practice, one game, one day at a time.